Hello and welcome to the Music Mike YouTube channel. Yes, some of you might recognise me from TikTok. I decided to take a bit of a break from there recently, just sort of reassess, what I wanted to do going forward. And I decided to give this long form thing a try. So we're going to see how this goes. Started off with a cheeky little YouTube tier list. I'm going to do King Gizzard. I did want to do King Gizzard as my first sort of introduction to long form content because I've often said that they are probably my favourite band. Definitely the band that I revisit the most out of everyone. And I didn't just want to do your bog standard like King Gizzard album rankings. Obviously they've got 27, 28 albums. And I've seen so many King Gizzard album rankings on YouTube already. So I wanted to be a little bit niche with it. So I thought I'd compile every single King Gizzard song that is over 10 minutes in length and rank them in this tier list, S to D tier. Nothing lower than D tier. I didn't want to add any more tiers because I don't believe any of these songs are like truly bad. At worst, they are just sort of okay, pleasant, listenable. And then obviously, all the way up to S tier, there's going to be a select handful of songs which I just think are like all-time King Gizzard greats. So you'll see what they are as we go into the video. So I'll just get straight on with it anyway, because you're not here to listen to me waffle. You're here to listen to me waffle about King Gizzard, aren't you? So I'm going to go through chronologically in order. First ever King Gizzard song that breached the 10-minute mark was Head on Pill from their album Float Along Fill Your Lungs 2013. This really was pretty much the band's breakthrough album in terms of like any sort of notoriety, like mainstream-ish success. And this is a great album, and this is handily straight off the bat one of King Gizzard's best long, lengthy tracks ever. I absolutely love this song. It's the opening track to the album, hitting you with this 15-minute monster straight away. Really does actually start off with a slower build, a more woozy, acid rock, fuzzed out atmosphere, proper like neo-psychedelia. It sounds very vintage. Sounds like it could have come straight out of the 60s. And it really just like sort of washes over you for that first portion of the song. But then it sort of explodes into this jam, which is just such an infectious, hooky, and catchy groove. I can't get enough of this song. I'm going to put this very, very high. It's one of them that doesn't feel as long as it is when you're listening to it, despite the fact that it's 15 minutes in length. It really belies that incredible length. It feels like it should be like 7 or 8 minutes long. Despite the fact it doesn't really change up an awful lot throughout its runtime. It's not like a progressive rock track or anything. I'm going to put it at the very, very top of A tier. I think this is a hell of an introduction to 10+ minute Gizzard. Okay, so moving into 2015, we have the band's album Quarters, which is a 4-track album made up of 10-minute and 10-second long tracks. Each track is exactly the same length, sort of goes with the title, Quarters. The River is the opening track from this album. And as much as this is like a fan favourite, and I do really like it, I do think it's a very, very good track, there are moments, especially towards the end, where I feel like it is being dragged out for the sake of getting it to that 10-minute and 10-second mark to sort of, like, it feels a bit gimmicky, if you know what I mean. Like, it has to hit, like, it feels like this track could have easily ended after 7 or 8 minutes and it would have been pretty perfect. But it had to get to 10 minutes and 10 seconds, otherwise you wouldn't be able to call the album Quarters. The track itself has a really, really nice, sweet melody to it. Some lovely little guitar licks. Very, very breezy, very easy to listen to. Sort of jazzy in a way. Like I said, not a bad track by any means, but I do feel like there is one other track on this album that sort of falls into this trap as well, but I feel like it does fall into that trap of being needlessly strung out, or being strung out for the purpose of fitting this album gimmick. I'm going to put it at the very, very top of B tier. Again, good, solid track, but just has that one glaring flaw to me, like the last 2 minutes, or certainly the last minute of the track just seem redundant. Second track on the album Quarters is Infinite Rise, and I definitely think that this, along with its successor, God Is in the Rhythm, definitely feel a bit more like they naturally flow better. These tracks really feel a little bit more like they justify their length, I think, than The River and Lonely Steel Sheet Flyer. And both of them, again, just have these, like, irresistibly hooky and sweet melodies. Again, similarly, very, very breezy, very jazzy, very sort of easy going, smooth. That is the word that I would use to sum up this album. It is incredibly smooth. And the hooks on these tracks, particularly those sort of like theme melodies and the choruses, just stick with me so much compared to the other two tracks on this album. I would put Infinite Rise above The River, actually, and I would also put God Is in the Rhythm above in B. I'm going to put God Is in the Rhythm in A because I just think that melody is... I think this is the best song on this album. And I don't know, it scratches an itch in my brain unlike not much else in the King Gizzard catalogue. Like, it is just so much fun. It makes me feel so good. It's such a pleasant listen. Again, so smooth, jazzy, all, rinse and repeat everything I said about Infinite Rise. I just think God Is in the Rhythm just steps it up a little bit. Lonely Steel Sheep Flyer, bookending the album alongside The River. Yeah, it suffers from the same issues. I think it feels needlessly strung out, although it certainly isn't a terrible track by any means. I've got to say, I don't quite like it as much as The River. I feel like this is probably the weakest track on this album. I'm going to put this at the top of C tier, yes. Top of C tier. That's the album Quarters. I think it's a mixed bag. Again, some tracks justify that 10-minute and 10-second length, and some don't really for me. Should also mention at this point in the video that that is the cut-off point that I'm using, 10 minutes. Any shorter, so if you have like a 9-minute and 45 length track, it won't make the cut. I had to draw the line somewhere and it just seemed to make sense. 10-0-0 or longer. Okay, so the band's next foray into epic lengthy tracks was 2017's Polygondwana with the song Crumbling Castle that opens the album up. This album is a straight up fully fledged progressive rock album, runs as one singular piece, much like Nonagon Infinity, but is a lot more patient. It's a lot spacier, it's a lot more psychedelic. It's not as like brutally hard hitting, not as lo-fi, not as fuzzy. But the opening track, Crumbling Castle, for me is an all-timer. Like, this is one of my favourite King Gizzard tracks ever. Like I said, it's going in S tier. I'll just do a really, really quick summary of it. It sort of is very, very hypnotic in its build. It's a slow burn. It sort of has a lot of spacey atmosphere going on. It's quite dark. It's quite brooding. It's quite menacing. But like the last couple of minutes of this track, when it really, really kicks in, like that ending, that closing chorus along with the outro, which is just like it's almost like doom metal, to be honest. The dun 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 dun. This song hits hard, it hits goddamn hard and kicks your goddamn ass. I think it's a perfect song, I absolutely love it. One of King Gizzard's best ever, not just one of their best lengthy tracks, but one of their best tracks, full stop. So it's going in S tier, no questions for me. Okay, so the next couple of tracks are quite interesting. We jump forward all the way to 2022. And although the band were releasing albums consistently in that time just before COVID and throughout COVID, obviously with the KG and the LW albums, none of these albums feature any grand, lengthy, ambitious, long tracks. But then we get to 2022 and the band hit us with the album Made in Timeland, which is compiled of two songs that are both exactly 15 minutes in length. And both of these tracks were originally written and recorded to be intermission music for the band's live shows. They are the tracks Timeland and Smoke and Mirrors. And I've got to be honest with you, like, this really doesn't feel like... It doesn't feel like a King Gizzard album to me. It feels like I am listening to intermission music. It feels like I'm listening to background music. There's nothing wrong with the composition or the sound. Like, they are a nice enough background listen. But they come and they go in just in a breeze, and I'm going to put them both in D tier because this is just not an album that I ever revisit. Again, it suits that sort of situation of being intermission music at a show while you're waiting for like the next act to come on and stuff. It sounds fine in that setting. Do I ever want to really listen to these tracks? No, I've got to be totally honest with you. So yeah, for that reason, they're both going in D tier. I think they're both just passable, just fine. 2022 was an incredibly busy year for the band. They were back in the studio together for the first time since COVID, and the first thing that they offered us in terms of like a full band experience back together and jamming was the Dripping Tap from Omnium Gatherum. Technically the band's longest studio track to date, coming in at 18 minutes, which is obviously like far and away bigger than anything they've released before. I think Head on Pill is probably the next closest at 15 minutes. And this song sort of like is in a similar vein to Head on Pill in the same way that it's sort of like not a progressive rock track. It's not particularly multi-phased. It's not linear, doesn't progress from something into something completely different at the end of the track. It basically repeats motifs and riffs and melodies, and obviously there's a lot of jam band influence going on. There's a lot of like improv solos. Some of the band's best ever guitar work lands on this track, and I just cannot get enough of this. This has to go in S tier. This is an absolute fan favourite, a crowd favourite. I'm lucky enough to have seen them perform this track live, and the guy who I was at the gig with had never seen King Gizzard before, and he came away from when this song finished, turned around to me and he said, I have never wanted to be in a band more than I just have watching the performance of that song, because like I said, the way the band just have this chemistry, the way they jam together, the way they bounce off each other. And the studio version of this track sounds very much like a live performance. It sounds like the band are there together. It's giving that energy. It's really sort of like, it's something else to experience. And again, much like Head on Pill, just doesn't feel 18 minutes when you're listening to it. It comes and goes very breezily because of the relentless pace and the way it just locks you into that groove, and it's so infectious. Amazing. King Gizzard, probably, a lot of people would consider this King Gizzard's best track, and I wouldn't argue with them. I think it's absolutely incredible. An incredible feat. Enough glazing. Now we have come to 2022. We're still going in the 2022. They released 5 albums this year, and a lot of them feature these like long, hulking, ambitious, lengthy tracks. Laminated Denim, I think, was the next album that the band put out. In the same vein as Made in Timeland, the album, this is 2 tracks, both 15 minutes in length, more like an EP really, but it is a full studio album, so it does count. The Land Before Timeland is the first of these 2 tracks, and this is a very nice, pleasant, lovely little track which has got some amazing linear progressions, some lovely clean guitar work, some nice sweet melodies. However, it does feel a little bit lengthy. It does feel like it drags a little bit. This song doesn't quite captivate me as much as the next song on the album, which I'll get to in a minute. But I certainly think this is a good, solid track. I'm going to put it at the top of B. I think it is better than Infinite Rise and The River. But yeah, it's overshadowed. I've not really got a lot to say about The Land Before Timeland because it's overshadowed, in my opinion, so much by Hypertension, which is going at the very, very top of S tier. I just don't know how to sum this track up in words. Like, this is probably my favourite King Gizzard song of all time ever. It's got that linear progression. It's like progressive rock meets the band's traditional psychedelic roots, meets like the jam band elements of like the dripping tap, meets like jazz fusion. I just don't know. It's got such a sinister little melody behind it as well. The laminated denim. I can't do it. I'd glaze this track. I'd sit here and just glaze this track for 20 minutes. If I was to pick one track out for someone who has never listened to King Gizzard before to sort of get a flavour for what the band is all about, I'd go straight to this one. Honestly, I can't S-tier this song enough. It's going at the top of S-tier, I'm sorry. Ice, Death, Planet's Lungs, Mushrooms and Lava was the band's first full-blown foray into like jazz fusion and jazz rock. A lot of like Mahavishnu Orchestra-esque improv, jazzy guitar solos, some lovely bass work on this album as well, and some like flute and some extra jazz instrumentation that sort of colours in these tracks. Can feel quite sinister at times because of the amount of different like key changes that the band use. I think that was like the gimmick for this album. Each song on it is in like a different key, using a different scale, minor and major scales. And as a result of that, a lot of these tracks feel very different. Some of them, like the opening track Mycelium, feel very, very uplifting, bright and happy. And then other tracks feel very, very sinister, talking like Iron Lung and Glee's 710. But enough about the album. There's 2 tracks on it that breach the 10-minute mark, and they are Ice 5 and Hell's Itch. Ice 5, I think, is the better of the 2 tracks. In fact, it's probably my favourite song on the whole album, along with Iron Lung. I think it deserves to go at the very, very top of A. Just got that little swing to it, the Ice 5, Ice 5. There's a lot of funk influence on this album as well, especially in the bass work, like I just said. Hell's Itch is a track that is 13 minutes in length. It is massive, and it is very good, but it's got that like the river quality to it where it sort of It feels like it's been dragged out at times, and the improv passages can sort of go on a little bit longer than I feel like they need to. Not a bad track by any means. I think I'm going to put it just below The Land Before Timeland. I think it's probably better than Infinite Rise and The River. Change is another one. The album Changes was the last album that the band released in 2022, and it opens with this 13-minute monster, Change, which I absolutely love. I think this is one of King Gizzard's most underrated and underappreciated albums, and also tracks as well, because like it's so nice, that little piano, the little bouncy piano, it's just got such a nice bounce to it. An album that, again, like Ice Death, makes use of key changes, but multiple within a song rather than just like each song being in a different key. This is an album that makes use of key changes throughout songs, and this 13-minute opening track is everything that this album is all about. Love some of the vocals on this album as well, on this song in particular. Like I said, it's classic King Gizzard. I'm going to put Change in A tier, just above God Is in the Rhythm. Yeah, I definitely think it is one of the best of this bunch. Okay, so the band released The Silver Chord in 2023, and this was a bit of a controversial choice. I was umming and ahhing about whether to even include this album in this tier list ranking, but I thought I would because technically it is. These are studio tracks. However, the gimmick of this album was that the actual album itself, the standard issue of the album, all these tracks are sort of like 3 to 4 minute long standard length, progressive electronic with an industrial flair edge, like Berlin School style. And there is a second disc which is the extended mixes of all of these songs, so it's all of the same songs but obviously extended mixes. So some of these are dragged out to like 10, 12, 20 minutes at times, long, lengthy pieces of electronic music. And I'm very, very conflicted on this album because I think some of these tracks suit the extended mixes a lot better than others, and others just feel like they should be left as that sort of standard issue length, 3 to 4 minutes. An example I'll use of that is the opening track, Thea, which I think is a perfect sort of like opening intro to the album. It's got that sort of sinister synth stabs that open it up. Very, very slow building, brooding, atmospheric. It's a perfect intro to the album. However, the extended mix is 20 minutes long for no good reason. In my opinion, this does not need to be this long. That is too long. And technically this is King Gizzard's longest ever song, but it's because it's the extended mix and it's not on the standard issue of the album. I like to consider The Dripping Tap as King Gizzard's longest ever song. So the Thea extended mix, the actual track itself would probably go in like B tier, but the extended mix I am going to put at the bottom, at the very, very bottom of C tier, just making it into C tier, because I do like the actual song, but the extended mix doesn't get listened to for me. It's unnecessarily long. Set is another one where I feel like it very much suits being standard issue length, 3 to 4 minutes. It's got an interesting little rap verse to it. I think I probably just about prefer the extended mix to the Thea extended mix because it's not as ungodly long. So I'll put that just above it in the C category. The Silver Chord, the title track, is however a track that I think suits its long length on the extended mix issue of the album. It's again got that sort of, it's got that slow building nature, that sort of slow burn, that atmospheric build. Silver Chord I would probably put at the bottom of B. Like again, I probably would say that I listen more to the standard issue of this album than I do the extended mixes in general, but the Silver Chord is one of the extended mixes that I will go back to over its original. Same for Swan Song as well. I think that's probably a little bit better than the Silver Chord extended mix. It's slow building but hits incredibly hard, and I've seen the extended version of this song performed live as well when I saw them at the rave set last year, and it was transcendental. It was incredible. It was with the light show and the sound in the arena that I was in. It was quality. Extinction is another one that I think very, very much suits the extended mix. I'm going to put that just below the Silver Chord in B tier. And Change is one that I don't really go back to an awful lot. Change, Chang-E. It's probably, out of Set, Thea and Chang-E Change, it's probably the best of the extended mixes. Chang-E is going to go in C tier. And that concludes my ranking of the King Gizzard 10-minute songs tier list. I'm going to just have a little look at this and just see when you look at these after they've been done, you think, will I regret any of these choices? Are some of them extended mixes a little bit high in B? I do really, really like them, I've got to say, but I'd say I prefer all these songs above it to them. Only Steel Sheep Flyer, sandwiching them. Yeah, do you know what? I think I'm pretty happy with that. Just let me know in the comments anyway what you think. Do you think I've been too harsh on some of these songs? Do you think I've been too harsh on like The River, for instance, which is a massive fan favourite? Do you think I've glazed some of these tracks like Hypertension a bit too much? Should head on Pill Be Higher? Just drop a comment and let me know. And also let me know if you want me to do any more of these tier lists in the future. I've had good fun doing it. So yeah, I wouldn't mind doing some more of this long form stuff going forward. Thank you for watching, and I will see you very soon.